We live in the world that tell us to work harder, to hustle longer, to push faster. It tell us to show up early, stay up late, and outdo the competition. And while there's nothing wrong with discipline and hard work, we've come to forget something essential, something that quietly sits at the center of it all. That no matter how hard you push, how long you work, or how big your goals are, none of it matters if you can't first understand what's happening in your own mind. The mind, your mind, is the operating system of your life. It's the command center, the filter, the lens. Everything you do, everything you feel, every decision you make is the first process in the space between your ears. And yet, we spend years learning how to fix machine, pass exams, build strategies, and test metrics, but we never taught how to sit still with our thoughts. We are taught what to think, but rarely how to think. We are rewarded for outcomes, not awareness. So we grow up achieving, not aligning. We climb ladders without asking where they lead. We win races we don't even remember signing up for. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you truly examined the quality of your thoughts? Not just what you are thinking, but how you are thinking. What is reactionary, what is fearful, what is distracted, or what is deliberate, intentional, clear. Most of us operate on autopilot. We wake up and immediately take our phones, scroll through someone else's life, take on someone else's urgency, absorb someone else's fear, and then we wonder why we are anxious, why we are unfocused, why we are tired. We've handed over the keys to our mind without realizing it. And here's the truth. If you don't control your mind, something else will. That might be fear, that might be comparison, that might be someone else's agenda, but it will be something. Because the mind doesn't like to sit idle. It will fill the space with whatever is loudest. If you're not guiding it, it will wander into places you never meant to go. And when the mind is left unchecked, the same story plays on repeat. I'm not good enough. I'll never be ready. They're better than me. I'll always mess things up. These thoughts aren't facts, but left unexamined, they become beliefs. And beliefs save behaviors. Behaviors save outcomes. So it's no exaggeration to say this. Your future begins with the thoughts. Think about it. Every great invention, every movement, every innovation in history began as a single thought. The aeroplane, the internet, human rights, they all started it as an idea. So did every war, every act of hatred, every moment of destruction. All of it begins in the mind. This is why learning to control your mind isn't just a mental health tool. It's a leadership tool, a parenting tool, a relationship tool, life tool. Because when you understand your mind, you understand your reaction. You recognize the patterns. You start to see when you're being driven by fear or ego or insecurity, and instead of reacting, you can choose. That's the difference. That's the power. When you learn to control your mind, you don't become emotionless. You become intentional. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You become a participant in your own life. You stop being a passenger and start driving. Imagine waking up and not immediately being pulled in a hundred directions by anxiety, emails, and expectations. Imagine pushing before speaking, listening without judgment, choosing how to respond instead of spiraling into regret. That's not fantasy. That's a skill, and like any skill, it can be learned. But let's be honest, it's hard. It's hard because our mind have been trained by repetition. Decades of rushing, reacting, comparing. You don't undo that in the weekend. You don't fix it with one podcast or a single book. But you can start. You can begin today. Right now, in fact. By becoming aware of one simple truth, you are not your thoughts. You are the observer of your thoughts. That tiny shift in perspective is where it all begins. Once you realize that your thoughts are not facts, you create space, and space gives you options. You can question the fear, you can replace the comparison, you can reframe the doubt, and when you do that, you stop living on default. You start living on design, you get to decide what matters, you get to choose your values, you get to decide how you show up for your team, your family, your mission. And you do all of that not by controlling the world, but by learning to lead the one thing you can control, your own mind. Because when the mind is clear, the path is clear. And here's the beautiful irony. Once you learn to control your mind, you realize that control isn't about force. It's about awareness. It's not about domination, it's about direction. You stop trying to crush your thoughts and instead begin to guide them. You lead them like a good leader leads a team, not with fear, but with purpose. So the next time you're overwhelmed, the next time your inner critic is screaming, the next time the world feels loud, don't just power drop, pause, listen, observe. Ask yourself who is in control right now, me or the noise? Because every time you choose awareness over autopilot, clarity over chaos, and purpose over panic, you learn to control your mind. And in doing so, you are not just changing your thoughts, you are changing your life. Most people think of the mind as something they have to fight. They talk about it like it's broken. I can't stop overthinking, my mind is always against me. Why do I keep sabotaging myself? And it's no surprise we live in a culture that constantly tells us to conquer, fix, or silence the mind. But what if the mind isn't the enemy at all? What if it's just misunderstood? Think about a wild horse. It's strong, it's fast, it's powerful, it has energy and instinct, and the ability to carry over great distances. But left untamed, it's also unpredictable. It can run wild, back you off, or charge into danger without thinking. The wild horse doesn't hit you, it's not evil, it's not trying to destroy you, it's simply doing what it knows. Running, reacting, surviving. Your mind is that horse. It's brilliant, it's reactive, it's deeply trained in habit. And if you try to beat it into submission, it won't cooperate. In fact, it will rebel because the mind doesn't respond to force, it responds to understanding. We often assume that control means present, that to be mentally strong, we have to eliminate negative thoughts, ignore fear, and silence doubt. But that's not how strength works. Real strength is not about removing emotion or instinct, it's about channeling it. It's about knowing when to hold back and when to move forward. It's not about denying the wellness of your thoughts, but learning how to ride alongside them, guide them, and eventually direct them towards something meaningful. Here's what's important to understand. Your mind is wired for survival, not success. It's built to keep you safe, not fulfilled. So when your thought seems negative or fearful, they're not trying to destroy you. They're trying to protect you. They're saying, "What's up? Be careful. Don't take the risk." That voice in your head is the same voice that once told your ancestors to run from predators or stay close to the fire. It's just doing its job, keeping you alive. But today, the threats aren't wild animals or freezing nights. They are rejection, failure, vulnerability, and your mind doesn't always know the difference. So when you think about starting a business or speaking on stage or telling someone how you really feel, your mind says danger. It pulls the rest, it throws resistance in your path, and you start to doubt yourself, not because you're weak, but because your mind is doing what it was designed to do. Now, if you don't recognize that, you think something is wrong with you. You think you are not capable. You start to believe the fear instead of questioning it. And slowly, without realizing it, your wild horse starts running to the show to dragging you from one anxious thought to the next, one reaction to the next, one sabotaging behavior to the next. But the moment you recognize what's happening, everything begins to change. Because once you see your mind not as a villain but as a powerful predator that needs direction, you stop fighting it and you start leading it. Leadership isn't about control or dominance, it's about connection. You can't lead someone or something you don't understand. The same is true for your mind. You have to listen to it, study it, learn how it responds to certain situations, certain environments, certain triggers. You have to notice what calms it, what energizes it, what causes it to spiral. That's not weakness. That's wisdom because with awareness comes influence, and with influence comes the ability to choose. When you lead a wild horse, you don't break its spirits. You harness its power, you earn its trust, you work with it, not against. And once that trust is there, the same horse that once resisted you becomes your ally, your partner, your engine. That's what learning to control your mind really means. It means developing a relationship with your thoughts, not silencing them, but understanding them, not fearing them, but guiding them, not reacting to them, but responding with intention. Let's be clear, this is not easy work. This is not a motivational quote or a morning routine. This is a lifelong practice. There will be days when your mind feels loud and unmanageable. This when fear shows up disguised as logic. This when your thoughts race ahead of you and you forget everything you've learned. That's okay because control isn't about being perfect. It's about coming back again and again and again. Every time you bring yourself back to awareness, every time you notice the patterns instead of becoming it, you are strengthening the connection between you and your mind. You are building trust. And over time, that trust becomes resilience, it becomes clarity, it becomes freedom. Because when you know how to guide your mind, you are no longer at the mercy of circumstance. You don't need the world to be quiet in order to find peace. You don't need everything to go right in order to feel steady. You carry your own center with you. Not because your mind is silent, but because you've learned how to ride the wellness and still move forward. Imagine that's possible when your energy is no longer wasted on internal conflict. When you stop resting with your own thoughts and start directing them towards what matters, that's when creativity flows. That's when leadership sharpens. That's when relationship deepens. Because you are no longer reacting from fear, you are responding from purpose. The mind will never be completely still. It's not supposed to be just like the wild horse was never meant to live in a cage. Your mind was never meant to be shut down. It was meant to be understood, respected, and guided. That's what control really is, not a battle, but a partnership. And once you master that partnership, once you truly learn how to lead your mind, everything else becomes possible. The fear doesn't disappear, but it no longer decides. The doubt doesn't vanish, but it no longer leads. And the wild horse, it doesn't run well anymore. It runs with you, powerfully, purposefully, freely. And it's when the real journey begins. There's a word we've been conditioned to fear. Discipline. It sounds hard, cold, rigid, like something you're forced to do, not something you choose. For many, discipline brings back memories of punishment, of rules enforced, time outs given, voices raised. So we grow up with this idea that discipline is the opposite of freedom, that freedom is doing whatever you want whenever you want, that freedom means no structure, no rules, no boundaries. But what if the opposite is true? What if discipline is not the thing that restricts your freedom, but the very thing that creates it? When you look at the people you admire, the ones who live with clarity, perform with excellence, will live with integrity, what you are really saying is not luck, talent, or magic. You are saying the quiet power of discipline. The daily choices no one sees, the inner battles they win before they even step out into the world. We often chase motivation. We wait for inspiration. We talk about willpower as if it's something you either have or don't. But discipline is something entirely different. It's not a mood. It's not a spark. It's decision made consistently regardless of how you feel. Because here's the truth. Your mind will not always want what's good for you. It will choose comfort over growth, pressure over progress, short-term relief over long-term fulfillment. And if you let it, it will run your life. By whatever feels easiest in that moment, discipline is what gives you the ability to pause, to interrupt the impulse, to create space between a trigger and your response. And in that space, you get to choose, not based on fear, not based on mood, but based on who you want to be. That's where freedom lives. Freedom is not found in reacting to every urge or following every craving. That's not freedom. That's slavery to impulse. True freedom is having the power to say no, to delay gratification, to hold a boundary, to honor a commitment you made to yourself even after the excitement wore off. Discipline is the muscle that allows you to do that. It doesn't mean you don't feel temptation. It means you have trained yourself to choose purpose over panic, direction over distraction, intention over instinct, and it starts small. You wake up and decide to make your bed not because it matters to anyone else, but because it's a promise kept. You sit down to write when you don't feel creative. You go for the walk when the thought seems more inviting. You put down the phone even though the scroll is pulling you in. Those are not just actions, they are declarations. Statements that say, I'm in charge of me. But let's be honest, discipline doesn't feel good at first. It feels uncomfortable, boring, frustrating because it asks you to act in alignment in your future self, not your current mood. And that means doing things the present self may not want to do for the benefit of a version of you that doesn't even exist yet. But that's what leadership is. It's the ability to hold a person that others can see, to protect a dream that hasn't come true yet. When you learn to control your mind through discipline, you become the leader of your own life. You start to showing up not just when it's easy, but when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And the reward is not just the result, it's who you become in the process. Because every time you choose discipline, you reinforce a new identity. You stop being someone who breaks promises to yourself. You become someone who follows through you, and with that credibility comes confidence, not the loud kind, not arrogance, but quiet confidence. The kind that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself, that you'll do what needs to be done even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching. Now, that doesn't mean you never rest. It doesn't mean pushing to exhaustion or grinding yourself into burnout. That's not discipline. That's disconnection. Real discipline includes recovery. It includes rest. It includes knowing when to pause, when to say no, and when to take care of yourself so you can continue because this isn't about punishment. This is about purpose. Think about an elite athlete. They don't train all day every day. They have structure. They know when to push and when to pull back. The same is true for the mind. You don't need to be regret. You need rhythm. You need awareness. You need habits that hold you up when the motivation fades because motivation will fade. Discipline is what takes over when it does. There's a beautiful paradox here. The more discipline you build, the more freedom you feel. Freedom from regret, freedom from chaos, freedom from the mental noise that comes from broken promises and half-finished effort. You begin to feel lighter, clearer, more focused, not because life is easier, but because your foundation is stronger. This is not about perfection. You'll slip, you'll miss a day, you'll make a choice you regret. That doesn't mean you fail. It means you're human. Discipline is not about never falling. It's about learning how to get back up quickly, how to return alignment without shame, without drama, without delay. It's about trusting yourself enough to keep going. Imagine the impact of more people live this way. If more leaders practice self-discipline instead of reactive control, if more parents lead with structure and softness, if more students, artists, entrepreneurs harness the boring work that leads of greatness, the world would be more grounded, more peaceful, more productive, not from force, but from freedom. And that starts with you because every time you make a choice that aligns with your values, every time you act in service of your future, you are saving not just your own life, but the life of those around you. You become an example, a lighthouse, not because you never struggle, but because you've learned how to stay steady in the storm. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. This is the path to it. And once you understand that, you stop waiting to feel ready. You stop negotiating with your excuses. You stop asking for perfect conditions. You show up, you do the work, you keep your promises. And in doing so, you unlock the freedom to become the person you're meant to be. Emotions are powerful, there's no denying that. They are what make us human. They connect us, move us, inspire us. They make music resonate. They make relationships meaningful. They give depth to enjoy and self to sorrow. Emotions are not the problem, but the problem begins when we forget what emotions are meant to be. They are signals, not steering wheels. Too many people are letting their entire lives be driven by momentary feelings. They allow fear to tell them where not to go. They let anger slam the gas pedal. They let doubt young the wheel. And before they know it, they've arrived somewhere they never intended to be. Confused, exhausted, off track, wondering how they got there. Here's the truth. Most of us were never taught. See, emotions are not facts. They are not commands. They are data, not direction. Think of a dashboard in the car. When the warning light flashes, it's not there to scare you. It's there to inform you. Hey, check the engine. Hey, low fuel. The light isn't saying panic now. It's saying pay attention. Your job isn't to throw the car into reverse just because the light turned on. Your job is to understand what it means, assess the situation, and respond with clarity. Emotion work the same way. Fear says something might go wrong. It doesn't say run. Anger says that wasn't fair. It doesn't say explode. Sadness says something mattered and now it's lost. It doesn't say give up. The emotion gives you a signal. It tells you something is happening within you, but it doesn't get to make the decision for you. But we live in a culture of reactivity, a culture that teaches us to chase what feels good and run what feels bad, a culture that says if it's uncomfortable, it must be wrong. And so instead of building emotional resilience, we learn emotional avoidance. We scroll, numb, avoid, distract, or worse. We obey every feeling as it's gospel. The problem isn't what we feel, the problem is that we never learn how to feel wisely. No one teaches us how to sit with discomfort without panicking. No one tells us that emotions rise and fall like tides, and they are not permanent states but passing waves. They are never thoughts that you can feel anxious and still take action, that you can feel angry and still speak with respect, that you can feel fear and still move forward. And that is what emotional maturity looks like. Not the absence of emotion, but the ability to recognize it, understand it, and respond in alignment with who you want to be. Think about a great leader, someone you truly admire. They don't lead by emotionless logic, nor are they emotional wrecks. They've learned to listen to their emotions without being led by. When the pressure's high, they don't react impulsively. They pause, they assess, they respond. That doesn't mean they don't feel the heat. It means they've trained themselves not to let it steer the ship. You can do the same. The first step is awareness, noticing the emotion without judging it. Just naming it can be powerful. This is fear, this is frustration, this is disappointment. Once you name it, you separate yourself from it. You remember, I'm not the feeling. I'm the one observing the feeling. The next step is curiosity. Ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? Not how do I make it go away, but that's underneath this. You'll be surprised how often the answers are rooted in something deeper. Fear may point to a value you hold. Anger may expose a boundary that was crossed. Sadness may highlight something you care about deeply. Your emotions are messengers. If you ignore them, they get louder. If you listen, they usually soften. And then comes the most important part, choosing your response. That's where your power lives. That's where leadership happens, in the space between the stimulus and the action. It's not about suppressing emotions. Suppressed emotions don't disappear. They go underground. They show up in sarcasm, intention, in burnout. What we resist persists. So instead of burying emotions, we acknowledge them. We sit with them and we act from our principles, not our panic. Because when emotion drives the car, we crash into things we care about. We say things we regret. We break trust. We make choices that serve the moment but sabotage the future. And afterward, we've left cleaning up the damage, wondering how we lost control. But when we treat emotions as signals, as information to process, not order to follow, we lead our lives with integrity. We make decisions that align with our values, not just our moods. We build relationships based on trust, not tension. We create a life that's stable, not reactive. Let's be real. This isn't easy, especially in the world that rewards instant gratification and applause and emotional outbursts. It takes effort to pause. It takes maturity to choose patience. It takes strength to feel deeply and still act wisely. But every time you do, you are rewriting the narrative. You're building trust with yourself. You're proving that you are not ruled by your emotions. You are informed by them. And over time, that becomes freedom. Because the less control your emotions have over your actions, the more peace you feel. You stop being tossed around by every trigger, every comment, every spike of fear or deep or sadness. You become steady, not numb, steady. You feel everything, but you are no longer driven by everything. You are behind the wheel, and your emotions, they are in the passenger seat. Noticed, respected, but no longer holding the mat. And there is where true control begins. We've all done it. We've said things like, I'll start when I'm ready, or I'll move forward when I feel more confidence, or now not's the right time. We wait. We wait for clarity. We wait for certainty. We wait for permission, even if we don't realize it. But here's the problem. That moment we are waiting for the perfect feelings of readiness often never comes. And that's one of the most costly beliefs we carry, the idea that we have to feel ready in order to take control of our lives. Let's think about what it actually means to feel ready. It usually means we are hoping for a moment when the fear goes away, when we feel brave and clear and strong and calm, when the unknown feels known, when the risk feels comfortable. But that moment doesn't happen at the beginning. It happens after we've already started. You see, readiness is not the requirement for action. Action is the path to readiness. If you look at the people who have made a difference in the world, whether they are building companies, raising strong families, creating art, or standing for something they believe in, they didn't start because they feel completely ready. They started because they were willing to move even while they feel unsure. That's the difference, the ability to begin, not when you feel certain, but when you feel whole. Feeling ready is not what makes you capable. Willingness is. It's the willingness to stand up even when your knees are shaking. The willingness to take the first step even if you don't know where the second will lead. It's not confidence that starts the journey. It's courage. And courage is the absence of fear. It's acting with the fear still present. Think about this. A child doesn't wait to feel ready to learn how to walk. They stumble, they fall, they wobble and bump into furniture. But they keep going, not because they are fearless, but because something inside them says, try again. And slowly through failure and friction, they become steady. That's how growth works, not from perfection, but persistence. But somewhere along the way, we forget that. We start to believe the myth that real strength is found in total preparation. We think we need more knowledge, more time, more support, and while preparation has its place, it can easily become procrastination in disguise. It can become the way we delay the discomfort of actually beginning. The truth is, if you're waiting to feel completely confident, you may never start. Confidence comes from doing. It comes from evidence, from trying and learning and adapting. You don't become a great speaker by reading about public speaking. You become one by stepping onto the stage. You don't become a resilient person by thinking about courage. You build it by acting. It's hard moment even when you are afraid. So much what holds us back is not our actual ability, it's our relationship to discomfort. We think if we feel resistant, it must be a sign to stop. But often, it's a sign that we are exactly where we need to be on the edge of growth. The discomfort isn't the danger, it's the doorway and control, real control. Start when we walk through that doorway, not by waiting to the fear to punish, but by learning how to carry it, not by pretending to be frivolous, but by showing up in the spite of it. There's a moment in everyone's journey when they realize no one is coming to hand them the perfect moment. There's no ideal version of yourself waiting in the future with a cap and a checklist. There's just you right now and the next decision you get to make. That's where power lives. In choosing action over avoidance, in choosing movement over mental resolve, in choosing to show up messy, uncertain but present. You don't need to be 100% sure to start. You just need to be 10% brave. Brave enough to try, brave enough to feel, brave enough to stay with the process even when the outcome is unclear. And yes, failure is part of it. You will fail. It's not a threat, it's a promise. But failure is not the opposite of progress, it's a prerequisite for it. Every mistake gives you data, every stumble gives you insight. The people who seem the most in control are not the ones who avoid failure, the ones who keep showing up after it. And when you do that enough, something changes, not just in the outcome in you. You start to trust yourself. You start to see that you can handle more than you can thought, that you can survive the embarrassment, that you can bounce back from disappointment. And slowly the fear starts to lose its grip, not because it goes away, but because it no longer owns you. So if you're waiting to feel ready, let me offer you this. Maybe it's time to stop waiting. Maybe it's time to step forward. Well, you're scared. Maybe it's the only thing between who you are now and who you could become. It's the willingness to start before you are fully prepared. Because the people who change their lives and the lives of others are not the ones who had it all figured out. They are the ones who chose to walk when it was uncomfortable. They are the ones who knew that control isn't something you are handed, it's something you create. One decision at a time, one brief moment at a time. You don't have to feel ready to take control. You just to begin it.